Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. It's Keith Couch with Truck Around and Find Out podcast. I've got Ryan Byers here with me, and Ryan's the owner of Front Range Compliance and DOT University. How are you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing good, Keith. Doing real good. I missed your Christmas party over the weekend. I apologize. I want to talk a little bit about it. It was good times, nice cars.
No, it was a great time. It's the Northern Colorado GTO Club Christmas party. It's always fun.
Good.
Always a good time. Really good people. Really
I would
good people.
agree. I've only been to one of your events. Yeah, as you keep telling me, I don't have to have a GTO to be a part of your club.
I've got a Firebird, so
yeah, a pretty one at that. What is your Firebird?
67. 1967,
67.
Rodero green with a 400.
And you've done some conversions to that too.
Yeah, bought it out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and the guy delivered it to the dealership there in Greeley, the Rush Truck Center. So I drove it home that night and had Aaron follow me, and it was probably high 80s, low 90s that day. It was a warm day, and it got over I-25 and it vapor locked.
Oh man!
And one thing, for people that don't know, a vapor lock is just your fuel boils, basically, and causes air pockets, vapor pockets, and carburetors don't run too good with vapor pockets. And so put fuel injection on it, which fuel injection pushes the PSI up to it runs about 55 to 60 PSI.
Mm-hmm.
That fixes that, because our fuels today, you had vapor locking back in the 60s and 70s, but the fuels were much higher quality than they are today. So the boiling point is lower temperatures. So I did fuel injection, I did disc brakes. Those are the two big things I've done to it.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah, it's a beautiful car. Absolutely stunning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did some nice gauges.
It.
If anybody out there's got a project, speedhut.com.
Oh.
They do. You can design your own gauges. So I designed 4 gauges there in my center console below the dash, and in the middle of each gauge, it has the first generation Firebird logo.
Oh,
so I made them look just like the stock ones in my gauge pod.
Okay,
so
there you go. So just upgraded gauge, but
it looks fantastic. Speed Hut does a great job.
Oh,
They're not cheap, but they are high quality, and putting them in, guys have put in gauges before. You got the 2 posts and you got the bracket and everything. These, you put it on and you just got a nut that threads on the whole gauge.
Yeah.
It's so much nicer than the old way of doing things.
Well, the one thing that I've discovered, if you are into rebuilding, reconstructing, anything, if you're putting in anything of type quality, want it to look super nice, nothing is cheap. So,
we had
that is for sure.
It's an interesting deal. Scott, a member of the GTO Club, has a 68 GTO Ram Air 2.
Oh.
Incredibly rare car. I don't know if it's because Pontiac didn't do a good job promoting it in 1968 or not, but it was a much better, Ram Air 2 was much better than 3 or 4. But Scott went to McCacken in Chicago, which is Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals. Maybe is what it is, something like that. Anyway, he said it's 600 to 1,000 of the nicest muscle cars you've ever seen.
Wow, I bet.
And he scored, out of a possible 1,000 points, he scored 999.
Holy moly!
So
really,
yeah, beautiful car.
Wow,
absolutely beautiful car.
And there was, one thing that I thought stood out was when I was at your, I went to the event in Loveland over the summer with you and Kelly. Holly and I joined you, and there was one couple. They were driving, I believe it was 10. It was a GTO. They're a married couple, and I believe the story goes that car was something that they purchased together when they first got married. They're still driving that same car today.
Yeah, and technically you'd view that as a one-owner car, but I can't remember their names. They're from Greeley. I could see the car. And he says, no, it's a 2-owner car. Well, my wife and I. He said, we bought it shortly after they got married. And I think he said 67, 68.
Yeah, it was something like that.
And they've owned it. It's got a hitch on it.
Yeah, it does. It does. Kind of.
I mean, you're like, what? But it's all original. All numbers match. It's never changed. They've never done it. And he said that was our daily driver for years.
Yeah.
And he said we moved, so we needed a hitch. So, I mean, kind of. it's not the prettiest car you've ever seen, but it is really cool.
But it has a really cool story. That
Very
is
cool
very
story.
cool. So yeah, so I joined you since I don't have a GTO. Holly and I joined you with our 23 Camaro ZL1, and it's a really fun car. But
We will not be racing.
yeah, well, I mean we can, but
You're gonna have to give me a eighth of a mile head start in a quarter mile.
it's
That is a fast car.
It is a ridiculous car. It amazes me just how much power that thing has underneath it. And I mean, it's got so much. Holly absolutely is terrified to drive it. So I know she listens to the podcast, and sorry, babe, for throwing you underneath the bus like that. But it's one of those things you got to respect it. If you don't get those tires good and warmed up, and you get on that thing too soon, and it'll turn you sideways in the middle of the highway.
What's that rated
Not
for?
ready.
Horsepower?
I think it's 650, but it only weighs 3,000 pounds. So, I mean, it is, I get the question all the time, Keith, which of the two vehicles that I own that are big and powerful, my TRX or the Camaro, and everybody wants to know which one is faster. And I just kind of look at them like, well, yeah, the Camaro. The TRX may have more power, but it's got it's
all
a
about
big
power to
package.
weight.
Yeah, it's such a big
I
package
mean,
to push.
my Firebird weighs 2,900 pounds,
Yeah.
but I've only got 335 horsepower.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's that ZL1. It's a lot of fun to drive. Sid spends most of its time in the
Good
garage.
looking car,
so
that's for sure.
It's our garage princess.
It's kind of fun
so.
to see because that's what GM calls an F body,
Mhm.
and those started in '67 with the Camaros and the Firebirds.
Right.
So, yeah, the Firebirds, Camaros, all that's all been F body. So it's interesting to see the very first gen, which is what I have, to the latest. How much they've changed.
So much for sure. Well, we got that. We knew that Camaro was about ready to be done being made again, and so we kind of thought, hey, we're gonna jump in and get that. And I started the quest looking for that new. I think it was the 2024 Panther, the last edition, the Panther edition, that they were putting out. And I called like 60 dealerships and got laughed out of the room. They were screwing with me, trying to tell me that they did have one, and then telling me I was an idiot for even calling and asking. So we found that 23, and we're the second owner on it. But we got real lucky because whoever bought it only put about 1,000 miles on it, and they were intimidated by it, and so they sold it. So we got really lucky on that one. We didn't have to take the new car hit, and we got a super cool car. But anyways, well, today, Keith, I wanted to talk a little bit about chain law. The recent snows that we had here finally in Colorado. Here it is, the beginning of June, or beginning of June. Well, I'm just off by a day or two. Beginning of December, and we finally saw some of our first snows down here, in the lower country. I know the mountains have been getting some, but it just kind of reminded me that, every time we get snow down here, that everybody has to be reminded how to drive again. So I just kind of thought that maybe we could talk about some Colorado chain law today. I think it's a hot topic and a lot going on, and especially since last year the state changed or updated some chain law rules, and I think not just CMV drivers. I do get a lot of questions on that, but it also affects personally owned passenger.
Yeah, they
cars.
expanded it.
So just kind of thought maybe we'd kind of go through real quickly today and hit on some of the highlights and maybe talk about some of our different experiences that we've had with the chains and some stuff like that. But anyways, when it comes to the Colorado chain law for commercial motor vehicles, and I think the biggest thing I think people need to remember is whenever I say commercial motor vehicle, people automatically assume or hear CDL, commercial driver's license style vehicles, and that is not true. So
Not
commercial
necessarily.
Exactly. Commercial motor vehicles start in Colorado for intrastate commerce at combinations at 16,001 pounds or more and move up. Well, it just so happens that's also when the chain law starts. Now don't just think that it's always 16,000. Remember, if you're one of those companies and you run across the state line, it does actually start at 10,001 pounds or more. So pretty much any pickup pulling a trailer is going to be considered a commercial vehicle if you are doing it for some type of business purpose. So with that being said, chain law is going to be applicable when you have vehicles with a combination weight. Now, what I mean by combination weight means the truck and the trailer combination. So that could be a pickup pulling a trailer. So if you take your typical 3/4 ton truck, and throw a trailer behind that, and that you add the two weight ratings together that you get off the VIN plate, not what they actually weigh, just what those
rating.
the ratings, yeah, what the manufacturer says the truck can load with or weigh with its weight of its vehicle and with its payload. So you add those two weights together. Okay, if that's up more than 16,000, then you're using it for business. Then the commercial vehicle chain laws are going to apply to you.
And the other note to that is because back a decade or more ago, most 1-ton cabin chassis were 12,000 pounds. GVWR, gross vehicle weight rating. Most trailers that they pulled were 14,000 GVWR, two 7,000 pound axles. That puts you to 26.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't require a Class A CDL because we weren't at 26,001 pound. Well, Ford, GM, Dodge, they all get into leapfrogging who's got the biggest GVWR. And all of a sudden, they're killing these small landscape companies and things because now those trucks are pulling a 14,000 pound trailer and they technically require a Class A CDL.
They do. And they did that at first, that initial wave, that was back in 2012 when they first did that big switch up, because you used to have, your 3,500s would be 10,001 to about 11 to 12,000.
12 was the most standard.
Was the 12, and then it was the mid. I can't remember if it was 2012 or 2013, and all of a sudden, I think it was the GM product first that came out that year, and it was 12,235 pounds.
Yeah,
like really.
And then
every
GM,
14,000 pound trailer became a CDL vehicle, Class A.
Yeah,
after that, yeah.
And then just for a little bit of history on that, before that, when I used to work for GM, sold a lot of medium duty trucks, we would build a 33K truck. And then we had an option code to rate it at 26, which GM liked because it lowered their liability. But you built a 33K truck. So you kind of overbuilt the truck, but rated it for a non-CDL.
Right.
So I wrote Ken Taylor, who owns Ken Taylor and Associates, and he does commercial truck training out of Jacksonville, Florida. Will Brogan's running that now. Ken asked me, he met with the heads of like GM and all these people, and he said, write me a letter and just explain that. So it was like a 3-page letter. He said he sat down with the heads of all the departments there and everything, and GM Fleet and Commercial, and they just looked at him like, so? And it's like, if you just give us that option code, well, you can build the same truck, just rate it for lower.
Right.
And it would have solved a lot of problems. I had a guy out of Billings, Montana tell me, he said, if you can get that done and get it rated at 26, I'll buy 50 of those.
Right. Well, they did the same thing last year, 2024, with the 3/4 tons. Mm-hmm. So we had 3/4 tons, going back, they were 8,800 pounds and they were 9,000 pounds. And then they have been 10,000 even, just right on the mark. And then all of a sudden it was GM again. And I say GM because that's the trucks that I came across and saw the weight ratings. Mm-hmm. They came out and they were 10,000 and change. I don't remember the exact, but they were more than 10,000. And I was like, when you take just the basic commercial motor vehicle rule in interstate commerce, anything over 10,001, well, that just pulled every 2,500 that may be used for business into DOT rules and regulations. And that all just
goes back to marketing. They just want to say our truck can carry the most.
Yeah, but that would work. Just looking at hours of service, you could take a 2,500 crew truck that was 10,000 even or below. You could take a driver that worked all day. It was not a regulated vehicle, so an individual could work all day, but then still jump in that vehicle to head back or head home or head to the office, and it wasn't covered by the DOT rules. Well, now GM, thank you very much, has brought those trucks back into compliance, unless you're in a state like Colorado where you still have to be 16,000. In Colorado, just so people know that are listening to this, we are just one of the 2 oddball states that have weird gross vehicle weight ratings. Most states are either adopt or DOT rules at 10,000 even, or they adopt at 26,001 pounds or more. So it's not quite a 50-50 split, but very close. 2 states are oddball: state of Colorado, 16,000, and the state of Pennsylvania, which I believe it's either 18 or 19,000. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, the 2 states. We had 3 Arizona, but they wised up, and Arizona became a 26,000 pound state here a while back. So, anyways, back to these chain law stuff. So we are, they made this more applicable, and it used to be that you were, the chain law kicked in, from basically September 1 to May 31st, and it required that CMVs, commercial motor vehicles, were required to carry chains, and that was basically over the mountain highways. So they were talking about the 3 main passes, heading up over from basically Golden to the dot zero area, the Edwards area, and it kind of covered that stretch, and you can kind of see that stretch on the CDOT map where they've outlined that kind of in red. Well, they've went through and they've very much expanded that to include.
A lot.
Yeah, quite a bit. First off, it's going to be covered, through, the chain law routes is going to be basically any mountain highway. So if it's up in the mountainy areas, we're looking at, just starting at the top of the state. US 40 is going to have the chain law routes, meaning that commercial motor vehicles are going to be required to carry chains. You've got I-70, basically from Golden, Morrison Road, all the way to the state line. Kind of moving down, you've got US 285 going from basically Morrison down to the Salida area, Buena Vista. And then you've got 24, which is going to basically drop down to through the Salida area. And then Highway 50 going across from Pueblo to Gunnison. And it looks like, I think it continues all the way to Grand Junction. You got 550 south of Montrose, which is going to cover, the route going to Durango. And then you've got 160 all the way across the bottom of the state, basically from I-25 clear to the Four Corners region, the state line. They're southwest of Cortez.
It pretty much looks to me like if you're going to be in Colorado between September 1st and May 31st, and if you're driving a commercial motor vehicle west of I-25, you better have change.
You better have change, yeah, for sure. The big parts of that, you've got, the penalties. If you get caught without change, it's a $579 fine. But worse off, if a truck were to spin off the road and block, not spin off the road, but if they spin out and block the road, that's a $1,000 fine. So, yeah, it could be very, very ugly. So I think one of the things to talk on, I see you've got your page open there, Keith, is going to be, how many chains, how many tires do people have to chain up? And that's probably my number one question that I get. People calling me saying, well, how many chains do I have, and that kind of thing. And I believe that there was kind of some updates to that also due to some of the older trucks, because if it was a straight truck with just 2 axles, I think you only had to chain 2 axles in the past. But they did add a change to that. So on your straight trucks, two axles, steer axles, and a drive axle set, they are still going to require 4 axles, 4 tire chains. Now, the big question that I get when people call, and I'm going to let you answer this one, Keith, because I know you're going to be geared up for it. Do I have to chain the steer tires and the drive axle tires?
No.
Yeah. You want to just kind of top off on your experience with that one?
Obviously, you don't need to do anything with the steer tires.
Right.
They just have to They just have to be you can't see the air in the tires, basically.
Yeah.
They got to have decent tread. But no, on the rears, you do need to chain up at least the outsides. Like you said, most guys will just do the tandems on the outside. One thing we like to do with that, and I've learned over the years with a lot of my trucking customers, is instead of doing a 52-inch axle rear spread with those 2 rear axles from hub to hub, we'll do a 54, which doesn't change the look of the truck. It's hardly noticeable until you put on chains.
I bet.
And that makes a big difference.
Yeah, 2 extra inches, I bet would. It gets pretty tight underneath there. But on those straight trucks, you're going to have to chain 4 tires. So that's going to be each of your dual sets. You're going to have to get those covered with either chains Alternate traction devices such as cables, those are authorized. You've got auto socks. You can have auto sanders, or I think your favorite,
On spot.
the
On spot auto chains.
auto chains.
So those are really slick. You can be driving along, just flip the switch, just make sure you're not going too fast.
What happens if you're going too fast?
Shrapnel.
Shrapnel.
Yeah.
Shrapnel.
But no, they're just a switch on the dash. They're air or electric operated, and they just push down on the inside of the tire, and they just throw a chain underneath the tires. And as long as you don't stop, 25 miles an hour is about the perfect speed for them. As long as you don't stop, but like you said, as we talked about before the show, is if you do get stuck, they don't help you.
Yeah. Well, that's the same with the automatic sanding devices.
Same with the sanders.
Sanders are super, super cool until you run out of sand, or until you aren't moving and you can't get that whatever that material is, underneath that wheel. Then you're kind of up a creek. So the next thing is single drive axles. You still have to, on a single drive axle combination, you're going to have 4 tire chains, or alternate traction devices, either the auto socks, auto chains, or sanders. No cables are allowed on those. For the single drive axles. Under the tandem drive combination, so we're still going to have 4 tire chains. I think with that one, most of your drivers, your professional drivers out there, are going to chain up 4 of the outside duals of that combination. That's typically the easiest way to kind of go about that. It also talks about the auto transporters are going to need to have 4 tire chains or auto socks, tire cables, that type of thing. So the auto chains and the sanders are authorized for both the tandem and the auto transporters. But
And the auto socks are really cool.
auto socks are absolutely very, very cool. It's just like a big,
Quick and easy.
Yeah, if you haven't used an auto sock, I highly recommend that you give them a try. My favorite part of the auto sock is the story of the invention of the guy that invented these. I can't remember. He's somewhere like out in Sweden or Denmark. I don't know, somewhere where they get a lot of snow. And he, have you heard this story?
No, I have not.
He would go outside and pick up his newspaper. And he noticed that there were days that he'd go outside in his shoes and he was slipping and sliding. And there were days he'd walk out in his socks and he'd have perfect traction and he would stick into the floor. So he used that philosophy and said, well, hey, would this work for a tire? And he kind of built some gunny sack to wrap around his tires, and that's how he invented the auto sock, essentially. So yeah, pretty cool little story for that. But they've taken hold, and not only are they lighter, they're most easier to take down and put away. You do want to make sure. Same thing with chains. Make sure after the trip, the route, get them out, lay them out, get the moisture out of them, or else you're going to be in the middle of a snowstorm and have an ice block. So, that type of thing. But most definitely, you just kind of wrap those things over, and it's got a little cinch strap on there. And yeah, you just kind of roll forward a little bit and cinch it up, and it's good to go. No cam tools, no fingers getting smashed, no trying to lay in the snow and grab that last link.
Chaining up
just
is
a little
no
tired.
fun.
Yeah,
No
definitely
fun.
not. Definitely not. Now, additionally, there are some requirements for buses and hot shot drivers. And for hot shots, we'll just kind of refer to a hot shot as a pickup and a trailer combination.
Yes.
So, quick in, quick out, hot shot operations. So that's going to be your traditional motor vehicle. But the buses and the hot shots, they're only going to be required to chain up 2 tires on those combinations. So both the drive axles within those 2 operations there. So it also kind of carries over to some of the passenger carrier vehicles. So they're not necessarily as personal owned vehicles. They're not subject to getting stopped and pulled over to make sure. But when the chain law rules go into effect, if it goes to the highest level, which is going to include all vehicles, both commercial and passenger, you're going to have to meet the requirements in order to be over those roadways, or you're going to suffer getting a ticket on the road. So 2-wheel drive passenger vehicles, and we're talking about any vehicles less than 16,000 pounds, 16,001 pounds, that is going, over the any portion of I-70.
So that was added.
That was added,
That was
yeah.
not
yeah.
the law before this new one.
Definitely not. So with this one, it's going to be some of the requirements. If it's a 2-wheel drive passenger, they must carry tire chains or an approved traction device. You can get cables. You can also get auto socks for the small cars, and that they're cool. They come in a nice little carry bag. You can throw them in your trunk. Throw them. They'd probably fit in the little area with your spare tire in your trunk.
probably.
So they're super handy. So definitely are required to have them with you in case you do get into inclement weather when you are required to stop and put those on. So important that if you're in a 2-wheel drive car, when you upgrade to snow tires or things like that, that's not going to take the pressure of the chains from you. Now, if you have a 4-wheel drive vehicle, you can comply by having proper winter or all-terrain style tires, that type of thing, as long as you have at least 3/16 tread depth. And from the manufacturer. So just to kind of keep that one in mind. So you got to have enough tread. I think you referenced having a proper tread pattern on there and everything before. And I think for DOT, it's 4 30-seconds on the steer, 2 30-seconds on all other tires. I try to push a 6 30-seconds and 4 30-seconds minimum for everybody. That's if you look at you're getting tire violations, stay ahead of it. I mean, when you're doing an inspection, if you're at 3 30-seconds on another tire, it's just a matter of time before that tire is going to be taking a violation from DOT. So, and remember, the biggest question when it comes to tires and tread depth, people ask me all the time, Keith, is it at one spot or multiple spots on the tire? And everybody, tech-wise and drivers, think that it has to be at multiple locations, and it is a single location when measured at any point in a major tread groove. So if your tires are getting low, if you're getting down there, again, I would push with my preventative policy 6 30-seconds for steers. We're going to swap those tires out, maybe move them to another axle, and then at least 4 30-seconds on all others. That just gives you a little leeway, to still operate but not take any violations. But the more important part is keeping your driver safe. And let's be honest, some tires are what's keeping them on the road. So
that's right.
stay up with that one, and most definitely, try not to have any issues there. So
I'm the type of guy that change out tires way before they need to.
Sure.
And I don't buy used. I always buy new.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I never buy new used tires.
Yeah, no, as you shouldn't. But I know some people, money's tight and everything else, so they're trying to save where they can. Just that's that is that little piece of rubber is what's keeping your vehicle on the road. So all the maintenance and everything else, there's so many things to maintenance, but tires are absolutely critical. So with that, I will say this, one of the questions I would ask you to really kind of think about in the repertoire of training and stuff that you do, have you trained your drivers how to put chains on? When you go out and you chain up, what kind of conditions are these drivers looking at, Keith? I know you've done it before, so.
I haven't done it as much as a lot of guys,
Of
but
course.
I've been in 10 below zero putting chains on. One time we were going to Spokane for the Spokane Egg Show, and it was 4th of July or Independence Pass. Can't remember what it was up there, but going from Montana to Idaho, and I thought we were on level ground when we crested the pass. We're at the top of the pass, and two other guys in the truck with me were all going to the show, and we all just needed a break. And so we just got out, walked around a little bit, and I thought we were on level ground.
Yeah.
Well, as anybody knows, the mountains can be deceiving. You may look like you're going up, you're actually going down. It might look like you're going down, you're actually going up. Well, I put the truck in gear to go, and it was just spinning. It wouldn't go, so I had to chain up to get out of there. And it was cold.
Yeah.
That's not fun. I would much rather do it in a parking lot.
Oh yeah.
And kind of get a good idea how these things laid out and
Absolutely.
and wrap up and tighten up and everything like that, because it's not fun to learn when it's 10 below zero.
Well, that kind of leads me to our truck around and find out of the day topics. And I think some of that is going to be if you truck around, you're definitely going to find out. And when you go to put chains on for the very first time, you've never done it, you're not familiar with the cam systems, you're not familiar with how to hook them up. When we say tips and tricks, I would say, pro tip number one is get your drivers in a parking lot and have them practice throwing some chains on. You don't need to chain them all, but have everybody at least put one set on a tire, cam them, show them how to do it when it's nice and dry. That way they have a plan and they kind of have an idea of how to go about it. It's not going to be fun when it's 10 below and you have a snowbank that's, several inches, that kind of
Wind's
thing.
blowing.
Oh, yeah. It's never fun.
And, you could make a competition out of it.
Yeah.
You can have a brackets set
Oh,
up
yeah.
for all the drivers and make a competition out of it.
Yeah, have
something like
some
that.
fun with it.
Have some fun.
As you should with all of your training. Try to have some fun. Get your guys into it. One tip that I've learned through the years working with so many companies is take that cam tool. First off, have two of them. Throw an extra one in the cab. That way, if one gets lost, the driver's not up a creek. Secondly, paint them bright orange, like hunter orange.
Yeah.
You drop that
Good
thing in
idea.
the snow and poof, it disappears. Wherever it's going to be, or you walk away from it. Next thing you know, you can't find the darn thing. So paint them some type of a bright color. Maybe even hang a tag off of it so it just kind of stands out and you can find it.
That's a great idea.
But make sure that cam tool, because without that cam tool, you're going to be asking a driver for some help out there. And drivers, y'all are pretty good about helping each other out. But, it's best to not put yourself in that situation. But get out, practice some chaining, work with your teams. I do offer that. We have several companies that we get with once a year, and we, do the same chain training annually. All the drivers know me. I've been doing it with them now for over 10 years. Excuse me. And they just know the routine. We go out there, they lay the chains out flat, they inspect them, they grab a hold of them. They always make whoever the new guy is that got hired do the chain job. They throw the tire chains up, making sure that I don't know what you call them, the hooks, where they link the chains together, make sure the hooks are facing outwards, and explain the importance of making sure that doesn't happen, or they get laid on the tire correctly, and then they just practice camming them up. That company has also went and switched to auto socks. We do also make sure that they throw an auto sock on a tire in the nice and warm sun and in mid-September before they have to do it, just to understand how easy that is. So we'll usually take a driver and have them throw a set of chains so they know how to do that. And then we'll also have them grab another tire, throw an auto sock on there. Everybody that does the auto sock is just like, I think they probably fight for the trucks with the auto socks in there. So
I've thought about getting a set of those for my pickup.
yeah, they really are pretty slick. So definitely, train on it so your drivers are familiar with it and that type of thing. And with that, good luck. Be safe out there. And Keith, you have anything else you want to add to the
Merry
chain
Christmas,
topics?
Everybody.
Yep, we're winding down. You got your Christmas shopping done?
All done.
All done. I think we've got just a couple little things. I'm pretty sure Holly started shopping for Christmas in July. So
Kelly had it done by then.
yeah. Fantastic. Well, perfect. Well, with that being said, be safe out there. If you got any questions, need any help, feel free to reach out to us here at Front Range Compliance. We'd love to help you out. And if you're looking for some trucks, I cannot recommend anybody better than Mr. Keith Couch. He's going to set you up with some really nice Peterbilts. And with that, be safe. Keep our shiny side up out there, and we'll be talking to you at the next podcast.
God bless you guys.